Welcome to the World's Dirtiest Workshop. This is Christopher Thunder, and this is my polycarbonate and Lexan bender. It doesn't have the electrodes in it yet, but it is what I intended it to be. So, what we're going to do is we're going to work through the project, show you how I made this, and how I'm going to install the electrodes, and hopefully not burn something. The nichrome wire gets to be about 1,000 degrees. You only need about 500 or so to melt polycarbonate. So you need an adjustable power supply, some wires, and some bolts or hardware to create the electrodes. It's really pretty simple, and we're going to do that in this series of videos. The concept is very simple. All you need is 2 layers of plywood, some hinges, and one side has to fold all the way over so that you can get a good bend out of that polycarbonate. You'll slide a piece of Lexan over the nichrome wire, which runs through the middle. You'll turn on a switch and raise the voltage until the wire glows red hot. I'm going to pull this away for a moment. Once the plastic has reached a certain temperature and has gone soft, you're going to lift this panel up and bend the polycarbonate. My goal is to get a nice smooth 45 degree or 60 degree angle out of that so I can get a nice geometric handguard. Here are some of the things you might need. A simple workbench, some simple tools, and a place to catch the scrap material when you cut it from your workbench. I just stacked up some toolboxes. But I have to really think it through. I don't think this is going to be big enough to bend windshield parts, just because it's going to be a little small. I could make a small windshield, not one of those crazy Texas speed windshields that I generally need. But it will do some of the work if I make, say, a multi-part windshield. What I'm doing is I'm planning out the pieces right on the upper panel. So there's a U channel here, there's a mount for a heating element there's a mount and a spring over here, so I need a little bit more distance. There's going to be hinges here and here. A back panel will be flush with the U channel, and a front panel will lift up on those hinges to allow me to bend the polycarbonate while a heating element is running through the U channel. That's going to give me the heat I need to bend this tuffet. Now, the problem is that the U channel can reach 500 degrees or something like that. So we're into, ignition territory for wood and paper. I'm going to need to make this really thick so that I don't set the world's dirtiest work table on fire. To do that, I'm going to be doubling up the particle board here and maybe even using a layer of plywood underneath. We're going to see about that layer of plywood. But I have an extra piece of plywood just in case. So the folding panel will be part of this particle board. Okay, so I'm going to have this panel here raise up on those hinges to give me the bend right here at the U-joint. And that should give me what I need as far as a bender is concerned. I'm going to use a very simple power supply. It's about $12. The heating element wire is going to be about $6. The screws I have laying around. The hinges I got at the home store for a few dollars, about $3 I think. The most important piece is going to be the tuffet, because if you bend it wrong, you've got to go buy another piece. And these pieces are about $6 each. So if you're going to bend them, make sure you bend them right once, because you're not going to get a second shot. You're going to have to buy a new piece. What I did do was, I bought a spring kit here for the unit and some feet, because I'm going to be running wires underneath of this. So the wires will be running away from the primary heat source. The copper will transmit some of the heat under the unit, but I hope that by the time the heat reaches the underside of the unit, which will be about an inch or two, that it won't set the world's dirtiest work table on fire when I start using this thing. So this is going to really work out great. I hope everybody watches me finish this project and get my motorcycle handguards bent and finished and looking really great. And I want to thank you again for watching the World's Dirtiest Workshop and Rider of the Storm. Once you get your work table all set up, it's kind of like making the statue of David. You mark out all the pieces that you want to have. Then you mark out all the pieces you don't want to have. So I'm going to be removing this strip here. I'm going to be removing this strip here. And I'm going to be removing this piece in the middle here. This is the folding panel, and this is the fixed panel. And they're going to sit on top of another 24 by 24 panel. So this whole thing, once I'm done cutting this upper panel, will go together pretty much as I intended it. So my plan is actually written onto the work pieces that I am going to use. This is really terrific. I can just get out my saw and start cutting, and this is going to work out great. If you're going to tackle a job like this, it's all about table setup, right down to where you place the cord. Why? Because you don't want to trip on a bundle like that one. So as I'm moving in and out of the workshop, I've only got one cord going across the threshold here, and it's not a giant bunch. I've got some toolboxes sitting here to catch the part that is going to be the waste material. I have some wood raised up to catch the waste material. I have the fence set up and my clamps ready. I have my Dremel set up to cut the panel, and I've double checked the measurements and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to put the camera down and make this first cut. Everything off the work table because it'll just vibrate off and hit the ground like it did yesterday. Alright, now, got it plugged in. I got power, I got a new blade, my fence is tight. I'm not going to cut through the table. I'm not going to cut through the clamp, so I'm ready to go. Now let's try to make this easier for me to move around. Don't cut through the other side. Take your time, everything comes out great. Take your time. It's gonna be awesome. Good to go for another cut. And that's how your work table should work. You should be able to move from cut to cut fairly quickly, double check your measurements, and begin. This is so much fun. I just love this. This is the best job ever. Just like when I worked in computer science, it's measure 50 gazillion times, cut once. Or change once. Or do something destructive once. Cutting is a destructive task. I really need to make 2 cuts here, and I'm going to get 2 panels and a piece of scrap out the middle. That's going to be pretty easy. All I need to do is set up the fence about 3/8 from the cut line, clamp it into place, make sure that the cut mark is over the edge of the table, which is not that bad. And we're going to make one more cut. I love it. It's just so cool. Now I got to cut this middle strip out. Another thing about using these tools is turn off the saw first. Then start blowing the dust and moving things around. Don't work with the saw on in your hand. With these really small tools, you develop very strange habits, like not turning off the saw while you work. Take your time, think about what you're doing, don't rush. Your job is going to be a lot easier, your day is going to be a lot more fun, and you're going to have a great time making things for your motorcycle. People out there in TV land are probably wondering, why would I call a channel the world's dirtiest workshop? And the reason is because, first of all, nobody else would name their channel like that. And secondly, it's not about my workshop. My workshop could be really fabulous, and I could have all kinds of tools that you don't have. And I could keep my workshop absolutely spotless. But if I did, I would be nothing like you. So, hence, the world's dirtiest workshop. Don't forget to clean up after yourself. And thank you for watching the world's dirtiest workshop. From that, you can kind of see how it's going to come together. There's going to be a hinge on either side. This panel's going to lift up. That panel's going to be secure. And I'm going to have to trim this U-channel off here, or I'm going to give it a little extra length just in case. I'm going to leave it trimmed off here. There's going to be a bolt here and a nichrome wire running through here, running about 12 volts at 2 amps. And that's going to run about 500, 600 degrees or more, maybe up to 1,000. And that's going to heat up the tuffet, and it's going to bend it. Because I have so much U-channel, and I think I need room for the spring over here, I'm going to cut that off even, and if I need a longer piece later, I'll just use my scrap. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some adjustments here. I'm going to give myself a little bit more room on the other side of the bender. So here, I planned about 1 inch or so. I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room than 1 inch. And here, I'm going to tighten this up a little bit, and I'm going to cut this off right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark it, and I'm going to give myself a rough cut. So what I'm going to do here is just make sure I get a good mark going, and I'm going to mark my just make sure you have a good mark here, and then mark your scrap, and then make your cut. I'm going to use the same Dremel tool, but I'm going to switch it out for a metal cutting disc, and I'm going to cut that aluminum U-channel. Easy. Take your time. Do it right. That's what I want. It's not perfectly straight, but I can grind it off with my sander and get that perfectly square. And that's going to look terrific. But that's a cut. Let's take a look at that close up. So yeah, that looks absolutely terrible. But you know what? I can fix that. Don't make bad plans because you'll just be disappointed all the time. Me, I don't care how square this is. I just need it to work. I need to bend plastic to make my motorcycle handguards. So if this comes out a little off, I'm not going to care. I just want it to look kind of square. This is pretty much what I want to achieve. I'm going to have to make a note to install the hinges so that the center post of the hinges, the axle of the hinge, is going to be face down. So what I want to do is I want to set it like that. And that should work correctly. And I want to make sure both hinges are on the same way so that they fold the same way. So I'm going to have to mark the hinges with a pen and make sure I don't get it wrong when I go to install it. When you're planning out your projects, always test things out mechanically. So the bender is going to go all the way like this. So I'm going to have this angle that goes all the way that way from flat. If the hinge was like this, that's going to stop, a little past 90 degrees, and that's not what I want. I want to be able to take the hinge all the way over. So I need this hinge to be this way so that it folds all the way over. If I flip it over, it won't work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a slight change in my plan. I'm going to mark this up. Same way with this one. That's the downside. That's the upside, folds all the way over. So we have to mark this as up. And we'll mark this left and we'll mark this right. And that's what I want. Now that I have it laid together loosely, and I know that I'm going to have a little bit of edge there sticking out on the bottom, on the base, I'm going to tape it together with blue tape. And as I secure the pieces, I'm going to be peeling the blue tape off, and that way nothing moves while I'm screwing it together. Now that I have it all taped down, I can mark the hinges, drill them out, and screw them into place. Now, one of the problems with particle board is it breaks apart over time. It really does, and the reason why I know this is because I used to move pinball machines and video games when I was in my 20s. That's how I got my rather large physical size. I might have wanted to choose something like plywood for this to give the hinges some strength. After I build this, I'm going to try it out for a while, and I just might make a second one. But for now, we're just going to use this this easy-to-cut wood. Fewer splinters, less trouble. I just want to make it quick, get it started, use it, and see how it works. If I want to remake it out of stronger wood, I'll do that later. And that's how I think about it. Building a bender can be a lot of fun. It also teaches you a little bit about carefully setting your screw heads and making sure that you don't drill all the way through your workpiece and that your hinges work correctly. So just making this simple little machine has been a lot of fun. All it is a door where half of it is screwed down to a base plate. You also want to make sure you didn't attach it to, oh crap, I attached it to the table. Well, I'm going to have to back some screws out there and put some feet on this thing, and maybe go to the back side of it and grind off the little sharp ends of the screws a little bit. I knew there'd be a millimeter or two beyond, but it just means that I've got good bite on the screws. So yeah, I'm going to have to unscrew this from the table and put the feet on it. Once you get it unscrewed from the table, you have to bang the feet in. Simple nails. When your daylight gets low, Put your project aside and start it again tomorrow. What you want to do is just knock down the sharp ends so they don't stab you accidentally while you're moving the part around. Sometimes when I put on a glove, it doesn't always go the way I planned it. But what you want to do is you want to knock these down. Start again. Start there. Okay, great. Sometimes when I put on a glove, it doesn't always go the way I planned it. But what you want to do is you want to knock these down so that you don't cut yourself. The next thing I'm going to do is cut out the middles of these extra panels so I can mount the feet. In this case, I'm going way over on the tolerances, so I don't have any binding going on. And now I can finish mounting the feet. Looks as though I have some more grinding I have to do because the screws are sticking through again. But I've marked some lines. Last night I realized that my red hammer is not cutting it, so I've got Grandpa's hammer out, and that should do a much better job. And I just stabbed myself. Yeah, this is why you grind first. So I have to be really careful not to poke myself. Great. Now what I could do is I could put another foot here just for support, which wouldn't be a half bad idea. And we're going to put one right there for support. Wonderful. Now I got to grind these off before I hurt myself again. Always watch out for those sharp points. All of the sharp screws have been recessed and ground down flat, so I don't have to worry about poking myself when handling the unit anymore. Sometimes you just need to use a couple different tools to find out which one is the best one. What did I say? To be continued! This is Christopher Thunder, and I'll see you next time.